Hey there YouTube, this is Mr.Lubufu, and we're here with Fate Reforged spoilers. Now this is the fourth time I am recording this video because my software has crashed 3 times already, so we're just going to go over each and every single card spoiled from Fate Reforged today, Monday, December 29th. So, we're just going to go ahead and hop right in, because there's a lot to cover and not much time. So, to begin with, we have Jeskai Sage. It's a 2-mana 1/1 with Prowess. So we have the return of the Prowess mechanic in Fate Reforged, that when it dies, draw a card. Now, a lot of people are, hating on this card, but I personally think that this guy is going to be not a limited all-star by any stretch, but certainly limited playable. I was a huge fan of the card Oculus in Scars of Mirrodin draft, and this guy's the same sort of thing, but you can get some possible upside with him, possibly trading for a morph and getting some value out of him there. Certainly a card that you don't want to be like playing too many of them, but certainly a card I would be happy playing is like a 22nd or 23rd card in my deck. Next we have Soulflayer. So it's a 6-mana 4/4 delve that if a creature card with flying was exiled with delve, it has flying. The same is true with first strike, double strike, death touch, haste, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, rage, trample, and vigilance. This guy reminds me a lot of a card called Cairn Wanderer, which was a changeling that had all the abilities that it could from creatures in your graveyard. Now, do I think this guy is going to be constructed playable by any stretch? No, I don't think so at all. But I think that this guy, decently strong and limited. A 4/4 is certainly not a body to scoff at. If you're able to get it for 3 or 4 mana, it's pretty fair. If you're able to give it flying, specifically flying, like a 4/4 flyer is just so impossible to deal with. Certainly, it can be a very powerful card in limited. Not like bomb rare status, but certainly very strong if you're able to get the right synergies with it. Moving on, we have Kolaghan, the Storm's Fury. So it's a 5-mana 4/5 flyer. Whenever it attacks, creature you control get +1/+0 until end of turn, and dash. So we don't have the return of the raid mechanic in Fate Reforged. Instead, we have dash, which is you may cast this card for its dash cost. If you do, it gains haste, and it's returned from the battlefield to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. I think this guy is absolutely insane and limited. Basically, it could be a 5-mana Lava Axe, or better if you just cast it with dash, or force them to use a removal spell on it, or you just get a big 4/5 dragon. Certainly a guy that's very, very strong. I'm a huge fan of this guy in limited. I don't think he's quite on the realm of constructed playability, but man, this guy's gonna win a lot of games in limited. Mark my words. Moving on, we've got Whisperwood Elemental. So it's a 5-mana 4/4, and we have a new ability, new keyword. At the beginning of your end step, manifest the top card of your library. So manifest is to take a card, in this case from the top of your library, and put it onto the battlefield face down as a 2/2 creature. Turn it face up anytime for its mana cost if it is a creature card. Then you can sacrifice it until end of turn. Face up non-token creatures you control gain when this creature dies. Manifest the top card of your library. Now, I'm not sure what to think of this guy. Like, they made this guy mythic for a reason, and he can certainly provide wrath protect, or he could provide wrath protection, because, well, you sacrifice him, and then all the creatures that die from the wrath, you just get a whole bunch of 2/2s that could possibly get better. I think that they were quite careful with the manifest ability, that they didn't want to push it too hard. It's going to be interesting. What I am going to say is, as a judge, having manifest and morph in the same set in the same drafting environment makes me want to cry a lot, because you're going to have some way to be able to represent morphs versus manifest, and being able to figure out which morph you played first and probably what manifest came first. So this is just going to be a complicated mess for the judges. So those of you judges out there, listen to me. I'm with you, man. We're suffering big time. Moving on, we've got Honor's Reward, which I think is a very, very weak card. 3 mana, you gain 4 life, bolster 2, but it introduces the bolster mechanic, where you get to choose a creature with the least toughness and put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. Or you put X counters where you bolster X. I think his card's very weak. The 2 counters and 4 life is not probably worth the 3 mana. Yeah, it's an instant, sure, but I'm not terribly impressed with it. We've got Soul Summons, so manifest the top card of your library. So it's a 2 mana 2/2 with possible upside. It's a bear. That's how you want to look at this guy, or this card. It's a bear. It might have upside eventually, which can be okay. Bears in a format full of morphs, and in this case manifests, having bears in the early game can certainly not be a bad thing. It is a sorcery, so that's important to know. So it is a bear. Playable and limited because bears. Next you have Gurmag Angler. So it's a 7 mana 5/5 with Delve. A lot of people are hyping this card saying, oh, it might be playable in Legacy and all this stuff. I don't think it's quite that good. Yeah, in Limited, you might be able to get a 3 or 4 mana 5/5, which, you know, it's a huge body. It's hard to deal with. But it's really hard to be able to get like 6 cards in your graveyard. From my experience in cons, you have to work kind of hard to be able to cast some of these Delve cards on an aggressive rate. Given this guy, if you have 1 or 2 in your deck and you're able to cast him pretty cheap, 5/5s are big. He's real big. I don't think he's Legacy playable because some people are ranting about that. I disagree with that quite strongly. Next we have Goblin Heelcutter. 4 mana 3/2, so the body's not the biggest in the world, but whenever it attacks, target creature can't block. And then it also has Dash for 3 mana. So I think this guy is... I like this card, but I think it's just because I just like him. I don't think it's like insanely good. If you have a very nice aggressive deck and you're able to cast him as a 3/2 haste for 3, and then they're like, okay, well, I guess I'll just have to trade with it to avoid not being able to block every turn for the rest of the game or something ridiculous like that. Which it's, I mean, it's okay if you're playing an aggressive deck to get in some points of damage. I don't think he's insane. I think he's going to be okay if you're in a nice aggressive deck. Next you have Ethereal Ambush. 5 mana for 2 2/2s. It's speed, so you get 2 2/2s with flash, basically, for 3 colorless, blue-green, with possible upside. I don't like this card, to be completely honest. I think it's fine. Like, if you're in Teamer colors, you're like, oh, I put 2 creatures into play, end of turn, and then during my turn, I get to untap and flip one of them over and have, like, a Snowhorn Rider, or, like, a big 5/5. It costs a lot of mana to be able to do that, and yeah, you might be able to get ahead on board that way, but I'm not a huge fan of it, personally. Next, we have Rageform. So it's a 4 mana enchantment that manifests the top card of your library, and then you enchant it with Rageform, and then the enchanted creature has double strike. I don't like this card. This card just screams like getting 2 for 1, or pseudo 2 for 1, I guess. Yes, if you're able to cast Rageform and then untap, and if you hit a creature and you're able to turn it face up, yeah, you get some huge value from it. But I'm not a huge fan of it. I'm not a huge fan of it. That's just me. Next, we have Flamerush Rider. So it's a 5 mana 3/3 that when it attacks, put a token onto the battlefield tapped and attacking that's a copy of another target attacking creature. Exile the token at end of combat. So, you know, it's an okay in effect. But then you can dash it for 4. So it is a rare. So that's why it's a more powerful dash mechanic. But if you're able to get, you know, a 3/3 attacking and then copy another one of your guys attacking, it can be a really just like a good aggressive way to deal a bunch of damage to your opponent that they really wouldn't see coming. At least the first time you dash him in. And then if you're able, then for the rest of the game, the opponent has to be careful that you're like, okay, well, if I ever dash him in again, you suddenly have an extra attacker getting in there. Certainly not a bomb rare, but could be a very powerful card, again, in that aggressive red deck, if that exists in Limited. Next, you have Frontier Mastodon, showing, once again, the return of the Ferocious mechanic. And it's a 3/2 for 3 that enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. Once again, in a land full of morphs and manifest creatures, 2 toughness is really bad. I don't like this guy. even though he can be a 4/3, and a 4/3 is so insanely better than a 3/2 in this format, I can expect. But if you're not able to get that ferocious trigger, a 3/2 is just, it's just bad. It's just so bad. I don't like it. Sad panda. Next you have Hooded Assassin, which is a card I love the design for. So it's either a 3-mana 2/3 or destroy target creature that was dealt damage this turn. And this, I mean, it feels like a Hearthstone card, to be completely honest. But this sort of effect can be really cool. I love the design of this card. So a 2/3 in the land of morphs, not that bad at all. Being able to destroy a creature that's dealt damage can also be really strong. So this guy's good either in the early game or the late game. I like him. I like him a lot in limited. Not constructed, of course. Now we have Outpost Siege. This is a card that I think is so close to being constructed playable, but it's just not quite there. It's a 4-mana enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you choose Khans or Dragons. If you choose Khans, at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. Until end of turn, you may play that card. Or Dragons, whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, Outpost Siege deals 1 damage to target creature or player. It certainly can be a very powerful effect. I think this card is like just a bomb rare and limited, because you're either like drawing pseudo 2 cards a turn, or being able to ping everything when you just cast like when your creatures just start dying or flickering, because it says leaves the battlefield, not dies, so it triggers dash. It could do all sorts of really cool things. I think this card's really strong and limited, but as I said, it's just not quite there for constructed. And lastly, a card called Shaman Revelation. As you can see, the picture is not exactly the cleanest, but it's 3 colorless green for draw a card for each creature you control, and then Ferocious, gain 4 life for each creature with power 4 or greater you control. So this is the sort of card that if you cast it in limited and you have just 3 or if you have 3 creatures in play, you're getting, without the Ferocious, you're getting, Jace's Ingenuity, that sort of thing, which is okay. That sort of effect can be certainly fine. But if you're able to gain 4 to 8 life, it can certainly be very, very powerful and limited. I don't think it's quite constructed playable, because if they ever wrath your board, you just have a dead card. And then 5 mana draw 2 is not good enough for constructed at all. So certainly an interesting effect. I'm glad they printed it. I'm curious to see what happens with it. Anyway, that's it for today. I'm going to thank you guys all for watching. Rate, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to keep your eyes open on my channel as I cover each and every card spoiled in Fate Reforged, and I'll see you guys next time.